Hello everyone and welcome to another devlog video for my isometric action game project. The most important update in this video is the introduction of basic 3D models of agents with simple animations that replace primitive geometric figures featured in previous videos. I'm not very skilled with rigging and animating, so this is just the first step. I predict the future development in this area will be easier for me, especially that I am considering outsourcing some of the work and relying more on third-party assets if possible. Another important update are improved terrains with various color schemes and simple props like trees and rocks. The placement of the props is adjusted to the terrain's mesh color, so you can often see that the trees are positioned over a specific ground color or that rocks lie around a blue ground that's supposed to be a pond or a lake. I prepared a scene with a dozen mini areas that allowed me to quickly experiment with various terrain types like forest, desert or a cave. Within that scene, enemies are spawning periodically around the character, so wherever he is, there's always some enemies to fight with. I changed the steering from WSAD keys to mouse navigation. It has significant influence on how to fight with enemies, as you can't cast spells while running anymore. The change may not be so important right now, but I plan to introduce some mechanics that probably wouldn't play well with the previous settings. To accommodate the change, I needed to increase casting speed of slower spells, as it would be too easy to get killed while casting a spell that takes a few seconds to finish, while not being able to move away from danger. To balance things out, more powerful spells from now on will use longer cooldowns instead. I added health bar at the top of the screen that shows up when you place the cursor over the enemy. In the previous video I mentioned that these were not really necessary for normal enemies, but after making some changes I think it's better if they show up for all the enemies, at least for the time being. Now enemies are divided by ranks inspired by Diablo 2. Champions and unique enemies are bigger, so you can distinguish them easily. They have more life, deal more damage and also have a few minor improvements. Their name in the health bar is shown in blue and yellow respectively. I finally implemented proper melee attack, which is indicated by an animation and a sound effect. Every enemy has a different attack speed and deals different amount of damage. The bigger the enemy, the greater the distance they can attack from. Now every time you hit an enemy, there's a chance you stun them for a fraction of a second. It stops enemies' attack if there's one in progress. Previously enemies were visually and functionally unaffected by damage until they died, so now fighting with them got a little more interesting. I also made a change that the unique enemies can neither be stunned or frozen. Pickups can now drop from killed enemies. Coins drop most frequently. Health pickups are a little less common, and fast attack pickups are the most rare. As you can see, enemies now show death animation instead of bursting into particles as was the case in previous videos. The corpse disappears after a few seconds to free up resources for more enemies. Some enemies have custom death behavior, like golems that change color to grey and stop spawning particles upon death. Every damage dealt to enemies and to the player results in a small blood particle effect falling to the ground. If you hit an enemy multiple times that has many health points, you can see a trail of blood particles on the ground marking the enemy's path while chasing you, which sometimes looks a little weird. That would be all for this video. It's hard for me to say what priorities I have for the next update because there's still so many fundamental things to do that it doesn't make much difference whether I focus on one thing or another for the time being. That said, I'd like to see more enemies, more spells and more combat mechanics in the next videos. I also want areas to be more immersive and maybe start with a quest system or a character level up system. You can check out my Twitter account where I post updates between devlogs. I'm also thinking about creating a Discord channel as it seems to be a popular way of communication nowadays. I may also create a Trello board so you can see specific tasks I plan to work on. Let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions regarding game features and updates. Thank you for watching and see you next time.